Hola y gracias por seguir conectados con nuestro foro de transformación digital de Forbes Colombia. Mi nombre es Andrés Montenegro Vergara, líder de ediciones especiales en Forbes Colombia, y en este momento es imposible hablar de transformación digital sin tener en cuenta el uso de nuevas tecnologías, de más datos y de inteligencia artificial como parte central de los negocios. Ya está presente en gran variedad de industrias, ya está presente en gran variedad de sectores. Sin embargo, aún hay grandes preguntas y retos alrededor del uso masificado de estas tecnologías. Por eso, para abordar este tema, hoy tenemos a un invitado especial, un invitado de talla mundial. Se trata de Jatinder Singh, quien es Global Head of Data and AI in Accenture Song. Jatinder, thank you very much for your time and for having us for this forum.
No, it's great to be here, and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be in Bogota, Colombia. So thank you.
Jatinder, for start this little chat that we're gonna have, I want to you work in Accenture Song, no?
Yep.
So you have a global view of the things, like what's happening not just in Colombia but in the other markets in other countries where you have presence, your business have presence. So I want to start this conversation asking you, how do you see the Colombian companies, the Colombian market, compared to other regions in the use of data and analytics and AI in the daily basis?
Yeah, so I think, everybody is taking this journey together. So, the level of maturity, I would say it's difficult to put a benchmark across a whole country, right? Because there are some organizations that are very innovative, some that are still leaning back and saying, like, I want to learn and I observe. And I don't think that's any different with what we're experiencing here within Colombia as well. Within the key industries that we're focused on, so within financial services, within education, and also within technology. So we're seeing, adoption at different levels based upon sort of like, where the clients are in terms of their risk and their sensitivity to leveraging generative AI. So I would say that insight is probably the same for Colombia as we're seeing in other markets around the world as well. Yeah.
So we're not that far away. It's a moment that everyone is figuring out what's
Correct.
Next.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're all taking this journey together. Yeah.
So I think many employees and C-levels that we chat with, they say, I know AI is important. I know big data is important. I know machine learning is important, but we are afraid to include them in the work because they think that they're going to lose their jobs. They're going to lose the actual capabilities they have in the industry. But this is a real concern. Do you think it's a real concern, or is more an opportunity to actually innovate and use it as you call it in other interviews, as a co-pilot?
Yeah, so definitely sort of like as a co-pilot, as an assistant. And so we do think of it in that way of like, we talk about humans and machines, right? So it's a long way from when we are all going to become digitized and we're all going to become redundant. So somebody's not going to take your job, but somebody who understands how to use AI and generative AI is, right? So that's the difference. So these are tools that are enablers, right? So we've got to remember these technologies have been developed to enable us to do our jobs. And I understand risk and sensitivities, but as we're partnering with clients around the world, we are saying, think about this as a technological advancement. Do within AI and generative AI what you would do within your normal job. So, for example, if you are ingesting data in there, you're not going to put sensitive data in there. You're going to ensure that you include things like, what are the guidelines that I need to be cognizant of as well? Include that information so that when the results are being generated, they are not hallucinating, right? They are within the confines of what you would expect. And this is why it's also extremely important to include humans in that process, which is why we talk about humans and machines. It's not just press a button and out comes something. You've got to have an interactive process going on in this. And it's helping to expedite how fast we get to solutions. So that would be the thing I would say is the resistance, it's happening. There's a stat that's being quoted that's saying doing something for 11 minutes every day for 11 weeks changes behavior. So you can start small, start by doing something and then learn and then iterate from that because it's here. It's not in the future, it's here now.
And if you think there could be some tools right now that for the way the prompts are put into and the use that the person are going to use it, it's going to change everything. Correct. As well. It's not going to be like one standard tool for every industry, every company, every person, every employee, but the way that the humans are trying to co-pilot with this technology to be more part of the innovation system, but actually doing a more easy job, like being a more successful careers and have more ways to actually interact with technology and not being afraid of. And you and Accenture Song, you're doing amazing things with a lot of brands around the world.
Yeah.
And I want to know, like, how is AI shaping, transforming, and disrupting the future of creativity and marketing in all kind of industries? It's not anymore about retail or big consumers of the things that people find in the supermarket, but actually in industries, in all kind of industries, that is changing the way of creativity and marketing are shaping with AI. And I know that you're doing a very interesting work in advancing in that way.
Yeah, so, as Accenture and Accenture Song, we focus on 13 specific industries. So we are seeing those creative sort of like transformations happening across those 13 industries. So yes, you mentioned some, it could be retail or CPG, automotive, life sciences, education, technology. We're seeing it across all of them. There are some key things that are fundamental across all of them. First of all is, what is the value that you're going to unlock, right? So with any technological advancement, when something comes along, people want to do more for less. It's like, oh, great, I am doing this. I want to do it faster and I want to do it cheaper and I want to have better results. And that was initially what happened with generative AI, right? I want to get the productivity gains. And there's a massive sort of like benefit achieved from that. But now what are the new business models that you're going to build? So what's the incrementality that you're going to drive as a result of this as well? So yes, you're going to enable things to be done faster. You're going to enable them to be done cheaper. But what is it going to unlock? So examples of that of clients that we are working with is, first of all, conversational commerce. We all pick up this thing and we just start talking. So we're doing this with a major airline. I want to go somewhere where I haven't been before. I want it to have a beach and I want it to have mountains and I want a Michelin star restaurant. The kids like to go running around. We like to go to museums and I need to go in 3 weeks' time. This is my itinerary. This is my cost. It starts planning in 2 minutes, right, with the airline that we're working with. So it goes from pre-planning the trip, getting you excited, to booking the trip, to getting on the flight, to being there afterwards. And we've created a travel companion for you along that journey, right? So we've transformed what we're doing within travel, right? And it's totally experiential now as well. So that's one area. Similarly, there is then also conversational service as well. So picking up the phone, having a conversation. Guess what? I live within a certain part of Colombia. I have different region. I have a different dialect. I use different slang. You're able to interpret that as well now using generative AI and the large language models. So both in terms of driving conversational commerce, driving conversational service, content supply chain production. How do you get to insights faster when you're launching a product using structured and unstructured data? So those are 4 examples in terms of how we're transforming what we're doing using generative AI across industries.
That's a game changer. That's going to change a lot of things from the daily basis, but actually the decision making of the companies, how the industries are going to interact with the customers. It's going to be more customer centric, but not just customer centric, but AI customer centric. It's going to change even more the way that the companies is interacting with the person. So that's a huge challenges that you have ahead in the not that far away time. And the time frame, the time period is not going to be like 5 years. It's going to be a lot shorter than that.
It will, for sure. And people have been talking about co-piloting a lot. And I was very fortunate. I was at Dreamforce in San Francisco recently, and the conversation there would move from co-pilots to agents. Right. So how are we now using agents to drive these strategies as well? So that's a common theme that we're seeing come through as well. Right. And the strategies that I mentioned, we're leveraging agents, in order to do those things.
There's a lot in the board. A lot is happening that is going to change the way the industries make the investments in that area. And actually, recently, Accenture invested $3 billion in AI. What happened with that investment in this recent year? What developments or what advances have you have in to improve your capabilities in Accenture Song and Accenture What happened with that a big investment that was around a year ago or so?
Yeah, it's probably about 18 months ago. So we were one of the first. Julie Sweet made that announcement. It's the big bet that we placed. And it's come through for us as well, up to $3 billion of investment. So there were a number of areas that we were looking to do there. One was to double our own talent, right, within data and AI in terms of what we are doing organizationally. And we're well on the pathway for doing that. Secondly, as Accenture, we have partnerships with all of the leading universities around the world, right? And some of our team members are adjunct professors. So we are co-creating the courses of the future as well as leaders within Accenture with those leading universities. So not only are we understanding what's going on in the academic institutions, we're taking all of that knowledge, bringing it back to Accenture, and then enabling our clients to leverage that as well. So that's ensuring that we are staying at the forefront, and then building solutions by partnering with our ecosystem partners, bringing the best that we have from a technology standpoint to make those happen. So those are three of the key areas that we are using that $3 billion of investment. One, to reinvent ourselves, but two, in turn, to reinvent our clients' business as well. And as I said, those are three areas that we are in terms of how we're doing that.
And not just because the way of the industries are interacting with their own clients, but the employees and the other stakeholders that actually is going to change that. If you as Accenture invest just in Accenture, then the other parts of the stakeholders that don't have that same kind of progress that's going to be below what Accenture are doing. So it's going to be like not that far, that's fast, that's changes and that fast. But I want to talk on how will data and generative AI will redefine the way that the companies interact with customers, but not just with customers, but actually with suppliers, with logistics, with employees, with all kind of stakeholders to create something that you call in another interview that so that you call it like a more connected and secure ecosystem that is not just the work of one company in one moment, but there's actually a bigger way of seeing it to actually build a connected ecosystem around the AI. And how do you think data and AI is going to change the way the companies interact with their stakeholders?
Yeah, so those are definite areas. Obviously, one is impacting the customer or the consumer agenda. Secondly, is interacting sort of like, from an employees, and third, absolutely, from a supply chain. So we're going across all of those areas for sure. But fundamental to that is having a digital core, right? So in order to do all of these amazing things, you first of all got to ensure that you have the data to enable to power all of those experiences, be there for employees, be there for consumers, be there with your partners if you've got vendors involved in that. So that's where we are starting. It doesn't mean that you have to boil the ocean. So what is the data that's going to be? First thing we start off with is, what is the value that you are going to unlock as a result of using AI, machine learning, and generative AI? That's the first thing. Once you've understood what that is, right, and we're all in agreement as an organization, the second is then building the digital core to unlock that, right? And then once we've done that, then we will start to build those experiences that are going to impact consumers, employees, and our partners as well, and then put them into the marketplace and measure and optimize them and to grow from there as well. What this also means is, and the most important thing for this is organizational and cultural change. So we are working with one client right now, a Fortune 50 client. How they worked is very different to how they work. So typically they would have, first of all, we put together the marketing strategy. Here is the strategy. We all work on the marketeers work on the strategy. Then we bring in the technology, right? So then we bring in the CTO's organization. And finally, we bring on the chief compliance officer and her organization. In order to accelerate this, those three organizations came together as a collective. So this is an organizational change and a cultural change for them to be at that sort of like, to be making those decisions together. Because we can't do 1, 2, and 3. We have to do 1, 2, and 3 together. And that's been transformative. So that's a top-down and a bottom-up approach to getting to unlocking this value. So those are organizations that have recognized that they need to make this change in order to unlock the value of generative AI. And that's not a small thing.
No, I was thinking while you're talking, I was like, oh, that's a huge challenge.
It's a massive challenge.
And to change actually the cultural organization in that industry or in that company to actually let people understand that this investment is an investment. It's not an expense, but it's actually something that you need to do to get to the next level.
Correct.
To actually be part of the market. If you don't do it, then in the short term, you're going to be the obsolescence of your market, the things that you're doing are way beyond the point that you can start keeping track with the actual technology. And that point of view, like doing it as a whole, doing everything at the same time for kind of saying, that's a really major challenge.
It is. With this particular client, I also want to be pragmatic. We're pragmatic when we do this. So for this particular global client, we are doing this 4 brands, 4 markets, right? So we're being choiceful, right, in terms of where are we making the big bets and what is it that we can shift? Because the organization still has to continue to function, right? So we can't be so disruptive, but we also want to prove the value of this and then to unlock it and to scale it. So be choiceful about how you do this as well, And that's where it comes from, unlocking the value, which is our first principle. Yeah.
So actually seeing why you're doing it.
Yeah.
What's the value of doing
Correct.
it. And in that line, I have another question that is, what do you think that are the main challenges to getting more companies to see it actually as an investment, not as an expense, like I was saying? For example, for getting more specialized talent that you're saying, for upskilling and reskilling the people that you already have, trust, legislation, cybersecurity, and so on. What are those challenges that you think that the biggest companies or not that big companies are having to actually start moving, like do the first step, actually getting involved in that transformation?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely a journey based upon maturity. So I think, clients that we're working with is, again, I want to do more for less. So that's a cost taker. I want to be more efficient, right? And there's absolutely a need for that. And that happens with every technological advancement. So we are working with clients in that space for sure. Once you've done that, you go, great, I can do more for less. Guess what? What I've unlocked. So let's say it takes 20% less of you and 20% less of me, and it was 100 hours. You've got 20 more hours, and I've got 20 more hours now to think. So now what I can do is I can start to think strategically, right? And I'm like, great, I've got all of this. I've automated as much as I can. Now I can start to think, oh, here's a new business model, right? So then we can start to co-create what those business models are looking like, because we have started to optimize what we can. And now we start to think about ways that we can grow. So the productivity is the first step, but then the growth needs to happen simultaneously. But if you're going purely down the productivity, through that, you're going to unlock minds that can then start to think about growth of the business as well. So think of it in those terms as well.
See, to actually transform the way you work.
Correct.
Transform the way you approach to your business and actually seeing what the technology can do for me and how I can use it. Just like we're saying in a previous question, like, it's not just the tool is there for using, but actually how I would start thinking in that strategic way, that you have to be strategic to this not be just an initiative that's not gonna be fruitful in the short term because it's not gonna work. And maybe people that are seeing us right now are thinking, okay, that's very interesting. I love it. I love AI. I think that's very good. I sometimes play with ChatGPT or with DALI or with other things, but how the people that are saying us in the company that they work start using data and AI in their companies? What are your tips to actually start using these technologies right now? I know that's some things that they can start doing right now, and I'm pretty sure that having you as our speaker today is going to be way helpful for them to start doing it.
Yeah, so I'd say, in your organization, obviously ensure that you're using the tools that have been sort of like, that you're allowed to use as well, right? So there will have been a whole vetting process, and your company will have said, here are the 3 tools, or here are the 2 tools that you can use. So ensure that you're using the tools that your organization has vetted and that you're allowed to use. The other thing I would say is, whatever you put in, think about it the same way that you would use that information in other channels as well. So you're not going to put in any secret source. You're not going to put in any data into there that, if it was available to the competition, would be of value to them. So think about think about when you use these technologies that you are using them in the same way as you would any other tool as well, and any information that you would feed it. This goes back to the 11 minutes every day for 11 weeks will change behavior. So you can do some of these small steps. If you are using GPT-3, if it's been approved, if you are using DALI or other tools, that have been approved by your organization. Start using them. You're not going to break them, right? As long as you're doing things that make sense and that you would normally do. Yeah.
Well, that's a really good advice, because sometimes you don't see it as a co-pilot, just like you were saying, but actually more like a game, like a test. Like, I'm gonna see what's that about, like what the buzz about. But when you see that actually work for your productivity, it's a game changer as well. You don't have to wait till your IT area of your organization actually go to your desk and say, hey, you can start doing that, but actually you can be the other way, like you as an employee or as a C-level, start seeing what kind of tools are useful for their resources and upscaling the tools that they need for more productivity, or more part of the industrial part, not just like in the desk or the office, but in actually production. And lastly, the last question that I have, that it's kind of tricky, because it's not always easy to talk about the future. But how do you imagine the medium and long-term scenario in the massive use of data and AI, when people actually start using it in the daily basis, go on and go on? And if you think that companies can be in the market, can be successful, is if they don't join the trend, they don't reinvent their business, and they don't find that other word that I really like that you say in another interview, that was find the new brand alchemy that is critical for organization success. But I know it's not that easy to talk about the future, but I'm pretty sure that you have a very interesting insights for finish this conversation.
Yeah, so we have gone beyond talking about the art of the possible. We now have over 1,000 active client engagements in generative AI. So this is real. We're doing it, and through that we've got a lot of learnings as well. So the where we are today versus where we're going as in the future as well. So as a result of that, we're also looking at what's the talent today, and what's the talent that you need for tomorrow, and how do you become that organization today? So examples of that, STEM, we all know about STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. I'm a STEM person, so I say that. There's now a new term, STEAM, right? So the A, we need artists, right? Because these are tools. So we need cultural anthropologists, we need ethnographers, we need people that understand semiotics, we need people that understand linguistics. So as we look at this, and we need all the STEM people as well, don't get me wrong, to build these tools, but we need the STEM people right? Because these tools have been developed to unlock things, which is why we also need people who know how to to get information out of those. And storytellers typically tend to be our liberal arts cousins, right? So don't forget creative people, artistic people in this conversation as well, as we start to look to unlocking the power of what these tools bring as well. Because you've gone from being numbers centric in terms of the algorithms and the models to being linguistically centric, right? So there is this shift as well in terms of the talent that you're going to need in the future that's going to build upon STEM, but you're going to add to that organization as well. So let's remember to start to include that, because you need friction and discourse in a system in order to unlock something that's powerful.
Just like you're saying, the human and the machine.
Correct. Absolutely.
It's not anymore about just the code, but the prompts are crucial. And if you don't think how a human could think, or speak or write the prompt, then the machine doesn't have the ability to actually talk like a human. Correct. Or have a more human response or more close response than just like a bot, but actually AI, an actual AI, not just a machine learning with an output for the human, but actually an actual AI.
Absolutely.
I think that is a very, very challenging way that we have ahead. But fortunately, we have people like you and people that working actively to actually doing that next step, like thinking about, okay, we have the code, we have the technology, what's next? What are the things that we're going to next? But unfortunately, that's the end of our conversation. That was an amazing time talking to you, because we have a lot of insights in what's coming, what you're doing, what is this moment in time, that what's happening in the industry, in the real time, in the real market, in the real life. So thank you very much for your time. Y para todos ustedes, pues así llegamos al final de este panel en nuestro foro de transformación digital de Forbes 2024. Una vez más, gracias a Jatinder Singh, quien es el Global Head in Data and AI de Accenture Song, por acompañarnos. Thank you again for having us and all the insights that you have. I'm pretty sure that we're going to talk in the near future, because you're doing amazing things for Accenture and for the companies that work with you guys. So thank you very much again for your time.
Thank you.
Y a todos ustedes, pues los invitamos a seguir conectados con nuestros contenidos, eventos. Los invitamos a seguirnos en nuestras redes sociales, donde nos consiguen como Forbes Colombia, y en YouTube también como Forbes Colombia y en Forbes.co. Hasta la próxima.